Hello, welcome to the channel and thanks for stopping by. So today we're going to have a bit more of a conversation or a discussion. I say that, it's more of a monologue from me to you and you just listen to what I have to say. So yeah, we'll call it a conversation for politeness. So what I'm going to talk about today is in-ear monitors. Now we'll try and keep this short, but I think this is a video worth making because I've gone through what I'm about to discuss. So I'm standing in for a wedding gig this evening, and actually a pub gig tomorrow. So this is a band that I don't normally play with. They're called the Boston Tea Party Band. They're a typical function covers bands. Please, I'll link them below, but go check them out on Facebook, Instagram, and even YouTube. They've started uploading stuff onto there. Really great bunch of guys, and I get on with them really well, and I'm really looking forward to actually stepping out and doing something a bit different. But for this gig, I'm going to be running in-ear monitors, which I've never done before. And as I think many people seem to be in certainly the guitar-based industry, although we are seeing a gravitational pull across to in-ears, I think a lot of us are still quite nervous or hesitant to go into the in-ear world because you can't feel it. You're taken out of it into this very sterile environment. And so I just thought I'd talk a little bit about how I got here, why I'm giving them a go, and how I found it so far in the rehearsals and using them at home in the YouTube videos, which you may have seen already. So at the end of last year, I stood in for a band. I had 24 hours notice. I was told I saw the call out on the 7 p.m. on the Friday for the 7 p.m. on the Saturday. It was local to me, so I said, let me in. And I didn't think anything more of it. I got the list of songs, I learnt them all. Gig went really well. The only slight hiccup for the night is when I got to the venue, which was just a pub. It's a local pub to me, so I didn't really expect it. They said that they ran something called a silent stage. Now, for those of you who don't know, I know some of you will, but for those of you who don't know, that means that there's no sound on stage. There's no live amps. There's no wedges. There's no, the only thing on stage is coming out. All coming out of the PA. Now, I say this was just a local pub gig to me. This included the drum kit, where the drummer had a full drum kit, but had taken the skins out and replaced them with trigger pads. And there were some cymbals, but I didn't take a wedge because I didn't expect this. It was, again, small pub venue. So I, as a guitarist, turned up with my Victory rig, 2x12, stereo, wet dry. I was, as the only guitarist, I was there to be a big noise, and I couldn't hear anything. I didn't have a wedge, didn't take one with me. I didn't run in ears. They didn't have anything they could supply. So for that gig, that was, I think, a real test of not only my ability, but also the other guys in that band who are used to playing with a guitarist who can hear what's going on. And so fair play to them, they got through that gig, I got through that gig, and it went really well. But that got me thinking, I need to be prepped if I'm going to step into this world of deputising for bands. So when the Boston Tea Party put out a call and I said yes, whilst we were discussing the set list and bits and pieces, I said, do you guys, what do you run? How does it work? And they did confirm that they run in-ears, they don't have wedges or anything. So I was then facing a decision. Do I go and buy a wedge and turn up with 80 to 120 quid? They're not expensive for a half decent wedge. Or do I give in-ear monitors a go? And I thought, well, because this is something that I want to do some more of, to test myself as a musician, also make a little bit of money on the side, things like that, I thought, well, go on then, I'll use this as an excuse to try in-ear monitors, under the justification, if it didn't work, then I would have some headphones for here, and I could just sell the unit on. So they pointed me in the direction of a couple of in what they use, and they just run, I think it's a Behringer P2 or something like that. So basically they have a cable running from their pack on their belt to the PA. So they are wired, but they have in-ear monitors. Now, as I've said several times, I run wireless for gigs. I've run wireless for gigs for over 10 years now. That I can't even hazard yeah, I just can't even entertain the thought of going back to having that wire running from me. So I went and looked a bit further, looked at some stuff online, some recommendations from other musicians, and I picked up this unit. So this is the U4 set. I think I've got that correctly, from Xvive, which I've started seeing more and more in the local sort of grassroots venue. If people are running in ears, if they've not got this nice, rack unit, they seem to be running these units. It's a great, it's great. This cost me, if you're looking to buy them new now, they're about £175. I picked this up on eBay for 145, and again, the justification was if it didn't work, I can just sell it for basically what I bought it for. As with eBay, you might lose a tenner, you might gain a tenner, depends who's there on the day. But as a unit, it's got 6 channels. So you've got your receiver here, transmit. Yeah, your receiver here, that's your pack, and then your transmitter here, and that's what goes into the PA system. So it's real nice and simple, just an XLR plug into your aux out, and that's it. And that's the bit that's on your belt. So it's got 6 channels. So if you're running more than one unit, 1 or 2, 3, 4, more than one unit on a night, you can all be in an individual channel, and you can all have your own mixes. Or if you're perhaps using these at a venue that's, it's a music venue or whatever, and there's more than one band, you might find that the sound engineers say, look, you're all going to get the same mix, and you're all going to be on channel 2, so you all can hear a little bit of what's going on. So there are a couple of different ways to utilize this. So yeah, 175 quid I picked up for 145. And then in terms of the headphones, it doesn't come with headphones. You can buy one that comes with headphones. I think that's more like 329, but I took the recommendation off the Boston Tea Party Band, the drummer Nunny, and I bought these off of eBay. I'll put a link below. None of this is sponsored, by the way. This is just, I thought, an interesting video to make. But these were £43 because there's no mic built in. I think you can buy for 46 some with a mic built in. I did upgrade the cable. This is not the standard cable that you get with the earphones. I think that was 20 quid. So got the headphones for £65 all in, and that unit, the wireless, or the other bit for 145. So I spent about £210 all in all on this set. And again, I know that I could at least make up most of that if I decided these weren't for me. My real worry was being taken away, and what's the sound quality like? Can you hear what's going on? What are you monitoring? Can you still feel everything on the stage? Now, the answer is no. It does not feel like you would if you were just there with your ears in the middle of a live stage, playing the songs. You are in your own little bubble. Now, I will say this about the Boston Tea Party Band. They are a loud covers band. They are very loud. The drummer, Nunny, hits like a train. Sounds great, but he hits like a train. The guitarist is loud. The other guitarist, Ben, he's loud. The bass is loud. So, they're all running loud to be together. When I was at rehearsals initially, I always think I'm quite conservative with my guitar volumes. Have been told to turn up. It's been a long time since I've been told to turn down, which is nice. It's nice as a guitarist not to have the sound engineer saying, turn down. But alternatively, you can see how, where I go into this unfamiliar environment, I couldn't hear myself. However, I had the in-ears in for the rehearsals, so all I could do is on my little iPad where I had the little monitor thing, I just turned myself up. Suddenly I could hear my guitar without having to gun the amps. I was not saying that I wouldn't have turned the amps up if I couldn't hear them. Of course I would have. But what that meant is that I was just able to run them at a more sensible volume, not having to push the amp anymore. I didn't have to do that. I'm not saying I wouldn't have done. That was just something a little bit a little bit different, where I could just go, well, I'll just turn it up on my in-ears, and there it was. Now, these are not the most expensive in-ears you can get. You can spend thousands on those, and I assume as you go up, the audio quality would get better. I will say the tone coming through them, these ones particularly, there's not a lot of bass. It's a very flat response. So after the first rehearsal, I did come home and I said to my friends, I'm not very happy with my guitar tone. It's real. I've got to do some work on this because I'm really not happy with it. What I had done is actually taken my laptop and I took a direct feed from my amps through the Captor X into my laptop. I listened to that back, and actually the guitar tone was much more as I thought it was in my head. So they do have a negative effect on this quality or the tone or whatever you have because of this, the cheap, the price of those. They're not going to be your most expensive, most extravagant. That the sound's not going to be there. But from a monitoring point of view, being able to hear yourself in that environment, that was worth more than being happy with my guitar tone. And I'm assuming it's going to be the same tonight at the gig. I'm recording this before the gig, and I will do a final thoughts part after the gig, and I'm hoping to get a little bit of footage for you from the gig as well. So I'll try and get a direct feed again just so I can include that in a little bit and you can actually see me using them. The sound will just be what we've got from my guitar, but you'll be able to hear my guitar and you'll be able to see me playing them. So that will be afterwards. This is pre-gig, and these are my thoughts. So am I worried that I'm not going to be able to get into the gig and really feel what's going on? Yes, I am. But am I also aware that it's a wedding? I am also aware it's a wedding. So you're going to be playing to anything from 50 to 100 people, and you might have 15 of them listening up until the last half an hour where everybody gets up and dances. I am worried that I'm not going to be able to feel it. I may not enjoy it as much as I could do, but I am also aware that a lot of these songs, I've put the time in, I know them, but I am going to be concentrating hard. So it might not be the sort of gig where I'm going to be jumping around like I do with Dob't anyway. So I'm not overly worried about being taken out or losing some of the live experience because of these. I'm just aware that they are some of the worries that I've had prior to these. And I think worries that are shared by quite a lot of other individuals, particularly guitarists, when it comes to using in-ear monitors. So I'm probably going to finish it here for now. I don't think I need to go into much detail. I've told you about the unit, my personal worries. I do need to go get some tape because these particular ones do like to fall out. So I'm going to go get some like skin coloured tape and just pop it over my ears here, and then just some other tape just to go down my back, just so that the cable doesn't all shake about and stuff. So I am taking precautions to ensure that they stay in for the entirety of the night, and that I'm not spending all night doing that, which some of you will have seen in my in the last few YouTube videos where they're falling out. But other than that, I think what I'll do is we'll leave it there for now, and I'll probably see you either tomorrow or Monday after the gig. Yeah, see you then. Right, and we're back. We've done the gigs, we've had a sleep, we've had a beer, all was good. So let's get straight back into these in-ear monitors and how I found them. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And to be honest, the ugly is not actually that bad. You can probably put it down to user error. So I'm going to start with the ugly. Now, I've used this for 2 gigs, as I said. We've had a wedding and we've had a pub gig. Both went really well, really good to get back out, sort of doing some depth work, playing some covers, all those bits and pieces. Doing that has just a bit of fun. Nice guys, really enjoyed it, great gig. As I said earlier, I'll link the band down below, the Boston Tea Party Band. If anybody is in East Anglia and wants a function band, book them. You might get to meet me, you might not, who knows. Anyway, the in-ear monitors. Yeah, so let's start with the ugly. So on both gigs, for different reasons, I played the first half of the first set without anything in my monitors, anything in my in-ears. Couldn't hear a thing. Panic stations are going. What have I done? I can't hear a thing on stage. Although there's a drum kit, the amps and stuff, vocals, anything like that, I can't hear it. I don't know what's going on. I can't hear where the singer's at. And for somebody that's just standing in, I've had one practice with the band running the whole set, so it has been me practicing at home. So not having those audio cues and not it made it more of a stressful, and probably because I hyper focused on it because I suddenly couldn't hear. So yeah, this happened on both nights and caused me no ends of grief both times. Internal panic, making sure that I'm playing the right thing, all those bits and pieces. So the first time it happened on the wedding was because I had the volume on this turned down. At some point, the volume on this had turned itself down between sound check and actually playing. Now, I remember I got changed, so I had to take this off. I had to put it on different trousers. There was walking around. I don't know what happened, but it went from wherever it was during sound check to off. And it's always the simplest things. So it took me 6 or 7 songs out of the 10-song first set to figure out why I couldn't hear anything. Once that was done and we were actually playing, it was great. It really was, a fantastic and different experience, but it really was great, actually. Having the control on an iPad for what I want in my monitors, to hit, what I want to hear in the in-ears. Do I want vocals? Do I want guitar? I didn't have as much guitar as I thought I would either. Even the drums were mic'd up, so did I want drums? All those bits and pieces. To have that intricate control over my own audio mix was actually quite, I'm not going to say life-changing, and I'll get onto that in the final thoughts part, but it certainly, I just kind of went, oh, well, this has opened me up to a whole new world. So that was quite incredible. And then the second gig at the pub, and I appreciate this will not be universal. This is just for this unit, but this unit here. So this is what goes into the PA. It has a power on and power off button. I think it's like 5 hours of charge on a full charge, and I made sure that I had fully charged them for both gigs. But after we set up and we're having to stand around and wait before we're playing, all those bits, I turned it off. So again, halfway through the first set at the pub on the Sunday, I suddenly realised I can't hear myself. What have I done? Is it the volume? Is it muted on the iPad? Da, da, da. And then I suddenly thought, hold on, it's going to be turned off on this part of the unit. And it was turned off. And of course, it wasn't in an accessible place, was it? It was 9 miles away behind the drummer, behind all the cables, the amps. So actually being able to get to that and turn it on was more problematic than figuring out that the volume was down. So that was frustrating, but it's user error, and it's the first time that I had used these. So I'm not going to give them lower marks for that, but I am going to say it was just another thing that you had to think about at a gig. And as musicians, we know we've already got quite a lot to think about at a normal gig anyway. So they were the two bad things on the sort of in-ear unit thing. The in-ears themselves are actually a surprisingly high quality sound. I would say, in comparison to your Shure or your more expensive things like that, I think it's probably the isolation that lets these down. Is the isolation isn't great. So whilst you can hear everything going on in the mix, there was still some audio fatigue. Especially standing close to a drum kit with a drummer that hits loud, there wasn't really any protection. I still came away from the 2 gigs thinking, oh, I've played a gig, so yeah. But apart from that, actually sound quality, I was really surprised, especially on the second day. I don't know what we did to mic up the cab on the second day, but that guitar tone just, in my ears, it sounded far better than anything that I'd got practicing at home, which was always quite harsh or quite tinny or whatever, whatever I was doing at home. On that day, especially the pub gig, my guitar tone, it just sounded great in my ears. And I think that's half of the worry, is you're going to have this fizzy, tinny, lacking guitar tone in your ears, so you're not going to enjoy it. That wasn't what I found. I found that actually it was a great sound on the Sunday particularly, so I could get into it, I could feel it because my guitar sounded great. So that's one thing I will say, is if anybody's got any preconceptions that it's going to sound awful, so that's something to, it really didn't. It sounded good. I put that out there. It sounded good. And again, that was something that's always held me back from going fully in-ear monitored for all of my gigs, is the worry of how would it actually sound, what can I hear, am I going to feel it? So yeah, um, the good I've kind of already gone over. I could hear everything nice and clearly. Having control was awesome. All those bits and pieces. The bad was all user error. That's me just messing up. And the ugly, well, I don't think they was really that ugly. I mean, I guess you can say that these aren't the most attractive things in the world, but nobody's going to see them. Nobody knows. That's just for you. So yeah, that was my experience as a very hesitant guitarist using in-ear monitors. Now, my takeaways from this is it has blown a lot of my worries or hang-ups or preconceptions out of the water in terms of what I thought, why I've always shied away from in-ear monitors. I am happily going to use these going forward with a caveat for cover gigs. I won't be taking this for the moment forward in the Dob't, my original bands, link below. Gigs, I'm going to continue doing those with wedges and like that. Um, Not because of the sound quality, not because of anything more than just the fuss on the day, turning up to a place. I just want to roll up, there's wedges, awesome, what do you want in there? Vocal guitar, nothing else, because they're small stages, I can hear everything. I don't need to hear intricately in my ear what everybody's doing because I'm running around, I'm getting the crowd going, I'm doing those bits and pieces, I'm performing. I don't need to use in-ear monitors for that. However, for cover gigs, for anything dep-wise, anything, deputizing, cover gigs, anything like that, probably here at home as well with making content for yourselves, I will be using the in-ear monitors. Obviously, I'm not today because I'm talking about them. But anything like that moving forwards, I will be using the in-ears. I think they're great, especially when you've got gigs that, you require them from a professional point of view in terms of the silent stages, things like that. Just being able to say, yes, I'm used to and have used and have enjoyed using in-ear monitors. They're not scary. I'm there. I'm ready to go. And, if people want to hire me, then it's just another string to my bow of, you know, part of the package nowadays with modern day musicians. So, yeah, from somebody that really didn't want to ever use in-ear monitors to now saying I'm not a full convert, but for certain gigs, certain situations moving forward, I will 100% be using in-ear monitors. I think really the next stage is getting to the point where I can justify probably upgrading, if not the unit itself, the in-ear monitors at some point, the actual in-ears, upgrading those. But I need to get a few more gigs under my belt before I kind of make that financial investment. Because I don't think I need them for what I'm going to be doing for the odd gig here and there. I think that they're fine. It would be if I was doing it sort of every other weekend or every weekend. I might step up my game in terms of in-ear monitor, the in-ear unit quality. But yeah, there we go. I hope it's not been too long of a video, and I hope some of you found this interesting. So let me know what you thought in the comments below. Have you gone through similar journeys? Have you used in-ears? Have you always never wanted to use in-ear monitors? Let me know what you thought with your own experiences down below. It'd be great to have a chat with some of you about it. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you've made it this far. Thank you so much, and I hope you've enjoyed it. And other than that, I'll see you next time. So until the next one, take care.